The following interviews and events were originally filmed so that I might use pieces of each to eventually make a summation video about my experiences with the raw food diet and its community here in Boulder. I've since come to consider that the information contained in each session might be valuable for raw foodists or others interested in the subject, so I decided to present as much of each complete event as possible. Many thanks go to CATV, Boulder's public access community television station, for the opportunity to work on these videos as a way to develop my skills in video production. And I do hope that there is useful information here for anyone interested in the raw food diet and lifestyle.
So I will read the envelope first. And the answer is starch. Now, what's the question? The question is, has anybody in the room, or in fact probably, has almost everybody in the room, attempted to go raw at some point or another, made the decision to go raw, made the decision that they're going to eat more fruits and vegetables and in the process eliminate cooked food from their diet, and then somehow found themselves eating cooked food again? Has that ever happened to anybody? Oh, yeah. And the cooked food was? Potatoes, rice, pasta, bread. Was it anything else? Starch, more starch. Every once in a while, about for 1 in 100 people where I've done that little demo, about 1 in 100 will say it was a fat source. And when it's a fat source, whether it's fried chicken or whether it's ice cream, when it's a fat source, those people were seriously under-eating on calories. They weren't just under-eating on carbohydrates, they were also under-eating on fats. They were under-eating on total calories. The rest of us were getting enough calories in the form of fat, but not enough from carbs. And so we had skewed our diet so high towards fat, we were getting enough calories, but they were all coming from fat. What we were craving was starch. As I said at the beginning, it's easy to be a raw fooder in between meals. Philosophically, that works just fine. But to actually put it into practice, it only works if you work it properly. The people who say practice makes perfect don't understand. Only perfect practice makes perfect. There are ways to refine your raw food program so that it will work for you the way that you want it to work for you. It doesn't have to chain you down. It doesn't have to become the same. If you're on Highway, 70? Is that what's around here? If you're on Highway 70 and it's 3 lanes heading west, everybody's going in the same direction, but they're not all going at the same speed. If we're all eating the same amount of fat and the same amount of carbs, standard American diets, 42% fat, 42% carbs, the rest is protein. When we switch to vegetarian, standard vegetarian is 42% fat, 42% carbs, the rest is protein. Standard vegan, 42% carbs, 42% fat. What do you think the standard raw is? It's closer to 32% carbs, 52% fat. We're all on the same road. It's just, and the road is heart disease, cancer, diabetes, candida, chronic fatigue, arthritis. Okay, we're not in the fast lane because we're eating all raw. We're making some healthier choices. We're certainly eating more fruits and vegetables and all raw. It makes a difference from every angle, but it's the same road. until we make that caloronutrient shift to actually supply the amount of carbohydrates that the U.S. Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, the United States RDAs, the RDAs of every country in the entire world range between 60 to 80% carbohydrates. None of them say, oh yeah, just get 32% of your calories from carbs. They all say approximately 70 to 80% of your total calories coming from carbs. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm just explaining what everybody said. But instead of getting those carbs from empty calories of starch, we get them from fruits. But this takes practice to be able to eat enough fruit, because fruit is a high volume, low calorie food. When we eat more vegetables, because people are telling us, eat more vegetables, this is the lowest calorie food on the planet. And you eat more vegetables, now you're starving yourself for calories. I did what he said, but I was hungry all the time. I had to go eat starch. I had to eat more fat. Well, if you eat more fat, you're not getting enough carbs. You're coming into the same problem. I am strongly in favor of every human being consuming some vegetables. I don't believe that it is possible to be optimally healthy, optimally fit on a diet of pure and only fruit. I have never recommended it. I have never tried to live on it, and I don't recommend it, and I will not. But the calorie density of vegetables is low. You could eat a mountain of vegetables, and it's still only going to be 2 or 3% of your total calories for the day. In fact, most of what you eat when you eat vegetables adds up to no calories. It takes more calories to chew the darn things than what they give back. A person who eats a huge amount of vegetables only eats 2 or 3% of their total calories from vegetables. We recommend that if you like it, have a small amount of nuts and seeds also incorporated in your diet, and maybe half of your total fat content coming from nuts and seeds, half of it coming from fatty fruits like avocados and the durian that we showed you. For me, it's a little less than that. So about 2 to 3% of my total calories come from nuts and seeds. 2 to 3% of my total calories come from vegetables. All the rest come from fruit. If they don't, I am driven, like anybody else, to eat starchy food. And this happened to me. And it was interesting what Robert was saying earlier, because what he said was, you get healthier. Well, I got healthier eating fruit for breakfast, like my friend Harvey Diamond said, back 20-something years ago. And I got healthier long before his book came out, but I was eating fruit for breakfast. But when I got healthier, I also started getting fitter. And I put on more muscle mass, and I needed more carbs because I needed more total calories, and eating fruit for breakfast no longer worked, and I found myself being driven to eat starches. And so I started eating fruit for breakfast and for lunch, and I got healthier, and I got fitter, and I put on more muscle mass, and I started burning more calories, and my need for calories went up yet again, and I found that eating fruit for breakfast and fruit for lunch wasn't enough fruit. It wasn't enough carbohydrates. I was eating huge amounts of fats, and once again I was driven to eat carbohydrates. And that's how I said 16 different times. I told my folks, I'm all raw, and then had to go back and go to the drawing board. And eventually came to a program where I realized that if I ever finish my dinner meal and I'm still looking for something sweet, has anybody ever had that experience? Oh man, I thought it was just me. If I ever finish my dinner meal and I'm looking for something sweet, it teaches me something. It teaches me I didn't eat enough fruit that day. That's what it teaches me. And until it taught me that, I just went and ate something sweet, like ice cream or candy bar or whatever it was. Now it teaches me I didn't eat enough fruit during the day to supply my carbohydrate needs. Since that's 80% of my caloric needs, I got to get that done first. I'm not going to get it done last. Save it for the end. You know, the people who eat the huge meal, Thanksgiving dinner, how many people finish Thanksgiving dinner, save salad for last, and then eat salad at the end? I mean, that isn't going to happen. Eat your carbs first. Get them done. So until I am sure, absolutely sure, that I have supplied myself with all the carbs that I want for the day in the form of fruit, I'm still eating fruit, which means some days that's all I eat. Some days I'm going to finish with vegetables. Some days I'm going to finish with vegetables and even have a few nuts and seeds or have a avocado or whatever it might be at the end. But the fat requirement, the carbohydrate requirement is the essential one. That's the one I've got to key in on. That's the one that if I don't get it done. And gee, didn't we know this all along? Didn't your mom say don't eat sweets before the meal? It'll satisfy your appetite. Don't they save sweets for the end of the meal at the restaurant because you can eat a huge restaurant meal and you still haven't satisfied your appetite? Duh. We're slow learners, and as talked about in the Q&A thing, how many people in the room, close it out, how many people in the room have burnt the roof of their mouth eating hot pizza? More than 5 times. More than 10. Every time. All right? Human beings are slow learners. And for the people who laughed at those hot pizza eaters, almost all of you, how many of you cut your hand picking up broken glass? More than once. You knew it was sharp, and you still cut yourself picking up broken glass. Human beings are slow learners. You got to take that into account. Let it teach you something. If you crave sweets at the end of the meal, if you're looking for chocolate, if you're looking for carbohydrates in the form of starches, if you're drinking alcohol, if you're supplying yourself with carbohydrates in any of these ways, what it is telling you is you are under-eating on fruit. And until you supply sufficient fruit to meet your carbohydrate needs, the raw food diet is going to appear to fail you. The qualifiers you're looking for are whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants. Organic as important as raw. CIDE means death, and anything that ends in CIDE implies death. Whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants. My Mono Man t-shirt, he's in his zone when he's eating whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants. And the new t-shirt, which we've already got a couple orders for today, is we got a beautiful blue gorilla balancing more fruit than any gorilla ever could balance. And he's on the very tip of the Empire State Building where all blue gorillas belong. And he is saying, I get my protein from fruit. So you'll have an answer for all those people who need that answer. Folks, I thank you very, very much. We are going to take a short break. This is the chance that you get. If you want to do some shopping, if you want to do some socializing, I think we still have a few books and tapes left, which surprises me no end because I didn't think we'd actually brought enough. The way that you bring Raw Passion home is through the support material. You can take us home with you. Robert's course, I recommend Robert's course to every single person here. If you have any interest in learning about how the program is supposed to come together, Robert's course will allow you to do it. It's serious business, but for people who have that inclination, if you want to influence other people, I have seen it so many times. When I go tell somebody something, they go, what are you, some kind of authority? But if I give them a book or a tape or a video or a chart or something and say, hey, read this and could you tell me what you think about it? They'll read it, come and tell you what they think about it, and they've usually been influenced by it. So you use other people as an authority. The books and tapes are there to support you. It's what will help you grow in your raw food efforts. We're trying to make it as easy for you as we possibly can. When we come back at 4:30, promptly at 4:30, we will do what we call roundtable discussions. Now, the roundtable discussions, and you can look on the chart if you want, but I want to tell you about it a little bit here. The roundtable discussions work like this. We'll all go back to the tables we were at, the 4 speakers. We'll be at those tables. But there will be set up around those tables about 15 chairs around each table. One of them for the speaker and 14 for y'all. Once the chairs are full, you got to go somewhere else. So the topics that Rosie will present is food and emotional poise. A real winner, and it's a specialty area for her. I'm going to do nutrition and athletic performance, anything related to that kind of stuff. Robert's doing Feel It Raw, Mind, Body, Spirit, the whole connection. Art's going to talk about dealing constructively with cooked food cravings. And he knows, because he's been there. And you want to learn from somebody who's been there. What will happen is, it's going to be a short presentation, 12 minutes. We do it. At the end of 12 minutes, there'll be a little sound, probably a little louder than that. Yeah, something's going to sound. The piano is what's going to sound. There's going to be a note. And at that point, we will have approximately 1 minute of piano music. And when it ends, the next session starts. We're going to do the same topics. Sometimes it may be a little bit of part 1, part 2, part 3. You don't have to leave the table if you don't want to. So depending, if everybody stays, we'll go to part 2. If it's a whole huge shift of people, then we'll deal with the topic as is. So it's a lot of us having to be on our toes, dealing with specifically what's going on. It'll be presentation primarily. There'll be some room for Q&A as well, but it's a ton of fun. It will happen 3 times. So if you want to hear 3 out of the 4 speakers, go to each table. You know, if you want to just sit down and plunk yourself at your feet of your mentor, feel free to do that and listen, you know, to what he or she has to say and have a good time right there. But it's a fun time. We get a lot of ground covered this way, and everybody has fun playing a little bit of musical chairs. And that's what's going to begin at 4:30 prompt. The 4:30 prompt will be some piano music also. Thank you very much. You play piano too? That's great.
I was just going to plunk a few keys.
Yeah, that's good.
I can't
Just
play
keep plunking them
That's
again.
just keep plunking.
Again.
You can just
You know, if you do
wander.
these black keys,
Doesn't-
it sounds like Chinese music. It does.
You can just wander through the keys. That works for me.
I like the veg source. I like everything, but I like the veg source.
Hi, folks. We're back. Last thing I want to do is be anybody's pain, huh? I'm not trying to be a pain. I don't have to work at being a pest. It comes naturally to me. The way this works is it's really time reliant. So Art and Robert's hiding again, and Rosie, what we're going to do, because 12 minutes doesn't go into anymore. So we're going to do 10-minute sessions 3 times with a minute break in between each one. That'll get us in and out on time. And as we said, people had a chance to look at the topics, so you either want to sit at table number Doug, or table number Roz, or table number Art, or table number Robert, or ignore us completely if you want, but those 4 are where things are going to be happening. And at the end of 10 minutes, you're going to hear piano noise. And at that point, you have the option. You can change anytime you want, but at that point, you can switch seats, go to another spot. The topic at Rosie's table is, Rosie? Yes, food and emotions. Art, dealing with raw food cravings, and cooked food cravings too. Robert's solving all the world's problems over in the far corner. And here we go. Thanks a lot, folks. Let's have some fun. Hi, guys. We could stay on the mic and just like overpower everybody. No.
It's really valuable to you and you want to stay on some questions, we can do that. Somehow it has evolved that the area of specialism that I work in is working with people who have what I classify as disordered eating. Now, this can be anything from people coming to me and saying, you know, I really do wish I could stop eating this extra apple after dinner, to people who literally are suicidal because food is ruining their life, or their relationship with food is ruining their life. So it's an enormous umbrella term which incorporates an enormous different variety of people's challenges. Now, what I want to share with you is some of my own experiences of working with these people, and also experiences that I've had with myself. You know, I said at the beginning when we all first met today that I'd slipped and fallen many times, and certainly with the relationship with emotions and the food thing, you know, I've been there, got the t-shirt and the video. So I'm talking from personal experience as well as experience of working with many other people. One of the things that I think is really important to understand is the fact that both digesting food and conducting emotions requires a lot of energy from your nervous system. And this isn't a esoteric spiritual thing that I'm speaking about here. I'm talking about straight physiology. In order to experience emotions or suppress emotions, it requires a lot of the functioning of your nervous system to do that. In the same way, it requires a lot of functioning of your nervous system to digest, break down, absorb, appropriate, and assimilate, you know, and eliminate the foods that you eat. They're both big jobs, and your body isn't good at doing both at the same time. Our nervous system runs on something which is a low voltage electrical current, and we use it up in everything we do as we go about our days, from conducting emotions to digesting food to physical activity to you name it, we're using it up, and we recharge it when we go to bed at night. Now, unfortunately, many people have learned that if they put enough food down the chute in enough complex and difficult to digest combinations, it is so demanding on the nervous system that the nervous system cannot conduct emotions. And many people live their lives from one fix to the next. Their meals are no longer meals to service them in terms of nutrition. They're meals to keep them emotionally numb. Yeah? And that is why so many people are horrified at the idea of missing a meal. They don't honestly think they're going to die if they miss a meal. I mean, after all, if they're really poorly in bed with some sort of stomach upset, they probably wouldn't eat for a couple of meals. But you are suggesting that they miss a meal and you see their knuckles go white, and they say, I don't know about that. Because what they're actually fearful of is knowing that they won't get their fix to suppress their emotions. Can you relate to what I'm saying? Does it make sense? Now, when it comes to emotions, classically there are two trains of thought, or two teachings that people are given in order to overcome these problems. One of these trains of thought says what you need to do is to express your emotions. You need to get a pillow and you need to beat the living daylights out of it, or you need to get a piece of paper and you need to write that poisonous letter to that friend who upset you, or get out the photograph of your parents and throw darts at them, or whatever it is you need to do. You've got to express those emotions. But you know, what that is actually doing is that is a form of suppression. Because what you're actually doing is you're trying to give your emotions to somebody else, to the pillow, to the photographs of your parents, to the letter, to whatever it is. You're trying to just push them out and pass them on to somebody else. And that is not owning them and experiencing them. It's actually another form of avoidance, in my experience, in my opinion. The other route is the route of transcendence. You tap into your higher self, you read your spiritual material, and you sit on your mountaintop and meditate, and then you rise above these very lowly emotions, and you think, now from this very high place up here, I can look down and think, experiencing that emotion is completely inappropriate, let's just all be loving and accepting and non-judgmental. And that is another form of suppression, because what you are doing is you are trying to rise over the top of something. The way to deal with emotions is something that so few people do, and I'm still learning to do fully myself, and that is to fully experience them. Now I know that sounds really scary, and it is pretty scary, but it is the road to absolute freedom and inner peace and peace with your food. What do I mean by experiencing them? Well, there's really 4 stages we need to go through on an emotional level. The first thing is we need to have the awareness that certain emotions have come up. it's surprising how we've got so experienced and so tuned into suppressing them every time they even rise above to the surface in any way that we don't even realise half the time when we are feeling angry, when we are feeling sadness, when we are feeling loss. We've just developed this way of kind of, just disconnecting ourselves. So being aware in the first place is the first stage. Once we're aware, the next thing that we need to do is to accept. Now what I mean by accept is that we don't sit there passing judgment on whether we have the right to feel like this, as to whether it's appropriate to feel like this, as to whether according to your spiritual understandings you should be feeling like this. We take away all that judgment and we just accept it as it is. If an emotion has come up, it's already too late to decide it's inappropriate. It has already arrived, and it is an energy, and it is inside of you. And however much you sit around and say, all I need to do is have compassionate, non-judgmental understanding, and this feeling will go away. There's a person who just tail-ended my car, and you're angry, whatever it is, you've got to accept that. Don't attach soap operas. Now what I mean by soap operas is, when you allow the emotion to come up, but instead of feeling it in your body, you go into your head, right? And you do the whole, he said, she said, he said, she said. And you start building this whole drama, this whole soap opera about what happened, and it's all going on up here. Feelings and emotions are energies which are in your body. What we all would really benefit from at these times is a frontal lobotomy. Okay? You literally take yourself out of your head, out of all the analysis, out of all the judgment, and you come down and you simply allow yourself to feel on a physical level. And that's what we call direct experience. So you sit there and you refuse to pass judgment on whether you should or should not be feeling this emotion. And you sit there and you refuse to entertain soap operas and rerunning the little video film of everything that occurred. And you literally come out of your head and you go, okay, come visit. Come visit the emotion. How intensely can I feel you? Do I feel you here? Do I feel you here? Where do I feel you? Are you hot? Are you cold? Are you red? Are you blue? Do you have a sound? What are you? And feel it as fully as you can. The amazing thing is that once you really try to feel an emotion physically as intensely as you can, it goes. But do you know what happens if you try to suppress it? It gets bigger and bigger. And so it gets bigger and bigger as we've suppressed it, and then the idea of actually experiencing it becomes terrifying. The longer we suppress things, the bigger they get. But to sit there and physically feel it and allow it to visit is the only way that it can become integrated within your own personal history, become integrated with your own life's journey and who you are. Does that make sense? Now, once you have directly experienced it, then you can sit on your mountain with your legs crossed and dip into your spiritual teachings and think, now what did I learn from that one? And how can I, move forwards from this point? For example, if something's occurred and you feel it appropriate to go and discuss something or express something to somebody else, you're able to do that from a very poised and calm and centered place. If, on the other hand, supposing you're really really uptight about something, and you think, I need to express this. So you go stomping around to your next door neighbour, let's assume they were the supposed cause of your challenge, and you go around there and you start thinking, right, I'm going to be really spiritual about this. I'm going to be really, I'm going to be proud of how I deal with this. But because you're suppressing the emotion, it's just building up pressure inside of you, and they open your front door, and all your intentions about being an awfully poised neighbour suddenly dissolve into this sort of very sarcastic, shouting and foot stamping episode where you walk away feeling less than proud of yourself. If you had first taken the time to really feel those emotions and to intensify them as much as you could until they just dispersed and became integrated with your personal history, that is when you can access your higher self. That gives you the space to then walk round to that neighbour with total poise and behave in exactly the way that we think we do in everyone's best interests. But more importantly, what you will find is that Doug is playing the piano. More importantly, what you will find is that you no longer need to get a regular fix from your food.
No, she's still at 2
Keep
minutes.
this stuff
Change
down.
table. By the time 2 minutes.
I've decided, y'all ask whatever questions you want, and then just rock and roll with that. I think it's whatever you got. Shoot.
Was the general subject matter
If you notice, mine is feel and raw, mind, body, and spirit. I was going to get into more metaphysical aspects of things, more interrelations of things. We've covered that a lot in lectures and things now, so what I'm finding is everybody's just got a ton of questions, so we'll just leave it open for questions.
Sprouts.
Sprouts. What about sprouts?
Yeah.
I want my sprouts.
No, I want to know what you think of them.
I think they're pretty darn good myself. I like them. Some practitioners don't think too highly of them. In sprouts, there are a fair amount of toxins that are released, but there's also a tremendous amount of nutrition that's released with germination. And the nutrients that are available, free fatty acids, amino acids, simple sugars, all kinds of nutrients, vitamins, minerals are just exploding in that little seed, in that little nut. So, and all the enzyme inhibitors, as you know, go away with soaking and germination. So there's a tremendous amount of nutrition available in sprouts. There's also a fair amount of toxins because that little plant doesn't want to be eaten. It wants to grow up into a mature plant so it can bear its own seeds. So there's always some give and take here, but overall, yeah, I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't ever go overboard with any of them. For instance, you get one of those little trays of sprouts.
Right.
Have you ever eaten a whole thing of one, or put it in a juice maybe? There's definitely, yes, I was going to say, it's find the technical term.
What did you say? What was the
You
word?
get a buzz, but it's uncomfortable. It's this very spacey, uncomfortable buzz. And there's a toxin in alfalfa sprouts called cavaline. And those mental states are part of the side effects of an overdose of cavaline.
And it is in the same family as local.
All right. There you go. So yeah, I like sunflower sprouts a lot myself. Yeah, so I think sprouts are great. And they're just energy. They're just busted forward with energy.
I heard also that soaking nuts and stuff makes it more digestible.
Yes. Yeah, you take a almond, for instance, and you can just set it on the shelf at room temperature for months. Put it in water and it'll start germinating. So what kept it from absorbing just water in the air and starting to germinate? They're called enzyme inhibitors. They're little chemical switches that keep everything off, basically. As soon as it gets soaked in water, the water molecules get in there, it flips all the switches, and it starts germinating. And then from that point on, the enzyme inhibitor is gone, and all the life is bursting forth. So you're getting that benefit just by soaking nuts and seeds overnight. So definitely recommend it.
I wanted to understand about Iroquois flags. Doug speaks that it doesn't exist. Victoria will tell you tell us about it.
Yeah, some people have made a religion out of leucoid plaque.
Yes, Bernard Jensen.
Don't they say that those people that read that say that you have to do enemas when you're fasting? Because you do the fasting to the people that what do you do?
Almost never. Right.
Well, even colonic therapists will say that they see mucoid plaque coming out. So what's...
Oh, I don't doubt that it exists. I just question a lot of what's called mucoid plaque. There's definitely fecal material and all sorts of garbage that gets impacted in the colon walls. The worse your diet, the more animal junk in your diet, the worse that is. Because if you have, the colon is kind of like a series of small pouches. Picture a long, slender balloon. It's kind of got a rubber band around it periodically. That's what the colon looks like. And in those little pouches, matter can get impacted in there and kind of get crusty and dry. And then what happens, all kind of critters take up residence in that stuff. Parasites, these kind of bacteria, nasty stuff.
Take an acidophilus, colon gardening. That's what I call it. That's what I call it. Yeah, what's your take on that? Is there a book called it?
Yeah, intestinal gardening.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, there is merit to getting rid of this stuff. The question is, how is it going to happen? Again, are you going to trust the body's timing and intelligence, or are you going to go in there and rip it out? Because what happens when you got these convolutions in your colon, stuff gets impacted in there. There's sort of sealed off space now that impaction is keeping stuff from getting to the colon wall. All kind of garbage starts growing in there and proliferating. It weakens the colon wall. Diverticuli often happen because of weak colon wall. All sorts of inflammations are going on. All sorts of wounds and damages happening to that colon wall. So if we go in there with a rotor-rooter, basically, chemically speaking, we rip that stuff out. We've exposed all this raw tissue. There's still all kind of garbage in there. No matter how much you get out, there's still plenty in there. It's just the way it goes. It comes off in chunks and layers usually. And so all this toxic stuff, parasites, amoebas, bacteria of all kind, can easily get through these raw, very permeable now colon walls because they don't have the protective layers they should. And all kind of garbage gets in your bloodstream. And it can be really, really nasty.
Are you speaking of colonics right now?
Colonics or herbal
Enemas or?
cleansers and
Oh,
any
but
of these
they
colon
can go in either end.
And so the bottom line here is we're saying we know better than the body how to get rid of this stuff, so we rip it out, basically speaking. Whereas if you give it time, the body will slowly pull it off bit by bit as it knows it has the resources to deal with the toxic effects of these things coming out. So it's going to take it out just in time as it knows it can handle it without damaging itself. You follow me here? So if we were able to perfectly understand the best time and way to pull
day in and day out, each and every meal. Now, the way that you deal with the cooked food cravings then is entirely different, totally different. Because what it amounts to then is what I call skillfully handling awareness. And I don't take credit for that quote. One of my teachers taught it to me. And what that means very simply is getting extremely familiar and acquainted with this aspect of yourself that is completely still and silent at all times. And I don't mean stillness of the body, because I teach an eyes open dynamic meditation program. It's not about just a sitting practice. Instead, it's about being in the world with your mind in a very peaceful, settled state. So when you're 100% raw and you have cravings come up, it's getting very familiar, either through prayer or meditation, this aspect of yourself that is very, very quiet. And it's always there. Usually we're not aware of it because we're too busy listening to the chatter in our head and the talk radio that we think is real. But instead, once we learn how to quiet the mind, and I don't mean silencing the mind because that's impossible. The mind is programmed to think. But what I mean instead is turning awareness to that aspect of yourself which is always silent. And it's always silent. I mean, 8 hours a day, a segment of that, you spend in deep, dreamless sleep when your mind sinks back to its source, where there's no thoughts going on. So it's a matter of tapping into that and learning how to turn your attention to that with your eyes either open, like we are sitting here right now, or closed first in a formal practice. Because when I teach this meditation program, it really depends on where a person is as far as how long they've been on a conscious path. Some people start from scratch and they need to learn how to turn their attention inwards, and so we start with an eyes closed practice. And it progresses to learning how to maintain that awareness with their eyes open throughout their day. So that's the second aspect of how to deal with cooked food cravings, it's totally different than when you're still eating cooked food. With any time left, I'd like to take questions right now, if you have any, on what I've said thus far. Yes?
So do you have any problems with social situations?
No. For example, yesterday, let me give you a perfect example. One of my hobbies is I like to watch sports. It's kind of a guy thing. So here I am in Colorado, and I'm a hockey fan, and I'm in enemy territory because I was born in Detroit. So Detroit and Colorado are arch enemies. So I used to live here, so I know where, you know, I went down Pearl Street where there's a couple bars and there's TVs there. And I don't have a problem in social situations. I was at the Cheesecake Factory, and I looked at their menu, and I ordered one of their salads. I said, leave out the vinaigrette, leave out the glazed walnuts, and put on extra avocado and sun-dried tomatoes, and bring me a whole plate of sliced up lemons and limes. And I feasted. The thing was huge. When I watched, you know, the Red Wings kick their ass. It's great. And then I was at a second bar, and I did basically the same thing, but it was a Mexican restaurant, you know, so you can get guacamole there. You can get, they had this corn thing there, and I told them to just serve it on a bed of lettuce. And I have a bunch of cute things I tell people. You know, they look at me weird, and I say to them, I have a health condition, and I want to keep it. Actually, I heard Doug say that.
That's a good thing because, you know, sometimes when you go to substitute something on a menu or something, people give you the strangest looks.
Oh, for
you
sure.
know, and then you gotta feel guilty of the fact that you know, the way you want to eat.
You don't
and
have
go
to feel
out
guilty.
and dine. Yeah,
You
but
tell-
people give you a complex about it.
You could tell them to
You know?
do it for the health
So that's
of
a
it.
good
That's another one I use. They like that. If they give me a hard time, I really don't say this, but I joke with it. I say, I'll go to health.
I just don't like stressing people out. You know, the waiters and waitresses are like, what are you? What?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what? Why? I don't understand. Just order something from the menu. That's what they're thinking in their head. And they're just.
You know, they're there to serve you. They're in a service capacity, and if they don't want to serve you, there's a bunch of restaurants that'll be happy to give you what you want. And
I have a question though about missing the taste of certain foods. Like for example, my biggest downfall is ice cream, and I love ice cream.
this
I
is
love
excellent. I'm glad you brought this
I
up.
love the flavor of ice cream, and if I don't have it for a long time, I really miss it, and I miss the flavor, I miss the texture, I miss.
What you do is you find substitutes that are completely raw that are much easier to do than you may believe. For example, with ice cream, banana ice cream is fabulous. And you could do so many different things with banana ice cream. I show people how to make snacks that are raw,
If you want to change tables,
that you would swear are junk food, but it's raw.
this is the
It's
time to
not
do it.
hygienic,
When you
but
go
it's
to
better
round
than
three,
eating
it's going to
junk.
last about 10 more minutes.
So these are
Thank you very
transitional
much.
foods.
As opposed to according to the world. According to Doug, less than according to the world by about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 points. But according to Doug, healthy for a man is going to be, hang on, healthy for a man is going to be between 5 up to as much as 10%. But cutting edge is really going to be 3 to 7. For a woman, it's going to be at least 5 to 7 points higher. Which means that for a healthy woman, it's going to, for the healthiest women, you're going to be hovering around 10 to 12%, 15 being the high end. Now we come to the second range, which is acceptable, certainly within the limits of acceptable, but not cutting edge healthy. A guy is going to be in the 10 to 15 range. A girl is going to be 15 to 20 range. When the woman goes over 20%, she's fooling herself. A guy over 15% is absolutely kidding himself. And that's just how it is. That's the realities. 10%, it depends on how it's tested. because there are 3 ways to test it that will come out relatively close. There's a 4th way that's going to come out about 6 points higher. So,
What percentage
you
are
want
you
to tell us,
talking
or do you
about? What
want
is it?
body fat percentage?
Oh,
What's-
body
Body
fat.
fat, yeah, that's what I was trying
Body
to
fat percentage is a useful term. Weight is almost not useful at all until you establish body fat percentage. Until you reach the body fat percentage that you want to achieve, your weight is meaningless. So, is a person who's 5 foot tall, 100 pounds fat or thin? Can't tell. Could be 5 foot tall, 1% body fat, little guy bodybuilder man who's like got muscles big as Kenny's, but he's only 5 foot tall. You know, a little girl gymnast. Or could be an 8-year-old, 5 foot tall, has never gotten out of bed yet, and looks fatter than the Pillsbury Doughboy. Fat is light, it floats. Muscles are heavy, they don't. I sink in a pool, you know. And so, until you know your body fat percentage, it is much more useful than what do you weigh. What you weigh is only useful if you. It's really only useful once you have brought your body fat to the level you want it. Then you can start to play with your weight by gaining or losing muscle. Yeah, you should be dead.
So what's the best way to measure it?
There are 3 ways to do it. They're all perfectly acceptable. Calipers, you know, somebody just goes,
Yeah.
and that is variable according to the accuracy of the tester. Calipers are certainly accurate, but the person who tests, the difference between grabbing you here and grabbing you here, and the next time I test you 3 months later and grab you here, and I don't remember, did I do it here, here, here? I've got to have a way of being, you know, did I go here, did I go here? It's totally different. And although we test in different spots, right, there are other ways to do it. You know, you can just visually inspect it. Go, vascularity. You're probably not too heavy for a lady if you've got vascularity in this part of your arm. You know, probably not carrying too much fat. But for a world-class athlete, lady, they're going to run away from you because you're carrying a few extra pounds of fat. You know, and you look at those ladies, and then we start, you know, and the doctors are trying to tell us that world-class women athletes are sick people because they don't menstruate. And I'm going, wait a minute. You're telling us they're the healthiest people on the planet for every other reason, but they're sick because they don't menstruate, and if you don't menstruate, that's a sign of sickness. Why can't that maybe be a sign of health?
Would you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. There are different issues involved here. We're talking about, with a woman, there are hormonal issues. If you drive your body fat low enough, you probably won't menstruate because you don't have the fat and the hormones that go with supporting the growth of that fetus. Usually down under, by the time a woman gets to single digits in body fat, she's going to stop menstruating. But most people misconstrue or confuse menstruation and ovulation. Ovulation is a completely different thing. It happens 2 weeks at a different time. Menstruation is preparation for ovulation. We've been taught that it's what follows 2 weeks after. It's not. It's what precedes 2 weeks before.
Right.
If it precedes 2 weeks before, then it's a way of purifying your blood in order to set the stage to have fresh new blood so that the fetus gets the best opportunity to have the freshest, newest, cleanest blood. It's giving you a gauge of toxicity. Part of your toxicity has to do with the amount of fat you carry because you carry your fat in toxins. So if these women athletes get down to 4% body fat while they're running marathons, putting themselves through tremendous stress, drinking the legal limit of coffee, taking the legal limit of Allerest so that they can run as fast as they possibly can on the stimulants while they're taking every aging factor under the sun, and they are ovulatory or anovulatory. This is a problem for them. They can get into eventual calcium issues particularly. If, however, they're at 10, 11, 12% body fat and they're taking care of their health, but they're not menstruating. In other words, they're not hemorrhaging uncontrollably. I mean, if you started hemorrhaging uncontrollably, would you be concerned? Would you care what part of your body it was coming out from? Would you care if everybody else was also hemorrhaging uncontrollably? I mean, like after an atomic blast, everybody hemorrhages uncontrollably. Wouldn't everybody be concerned? and how women can just say, oh yeah, I'm hemorrhaging uncontrollably. I am bleeding and I can't make it stop. Hemorrhaging uncontrollably. And just going, yeah, but that's normal. That is not normal. It's just what everybody's got. It's like walking around congested and figuring it's normal because everybody's congested. Or walking around brain dead and figuring it's normal because practically everybody's walking around brain dead, waiting for their bodies to catch up. You know, it doesn't make it healthy. Normally what we see is a lightening of bleeding as health improves, as fitness levels improve, as body fat levels go down. We don't always see it stop. We usually see a reduction in PMS symptoms, this reduction in pain, reduction in a lot of things, all healthy indicators. None of them are making us concerned that you're going to go osteoporotic because of it. We're not recommending single-digit body fat for women. This is kind of low. Women carry a little more fat than men. Ain't it great?
Thank you.
More or less. Yeah. Pardon?
What can you do for osteoporosis?
It's not about getting calcium. It's about losing calcium. I think what you mean is what can you do against osteoporosis as opposed to for osteoporosis, but I know what you mean. Basically, there are things that cause you to lose calcium. You stop doing those. If you're eating animal proteins, you're losing calcium. If you're drinking soft drinks, you're losing calcium. If you're not getting regular doses of sunshine, you're losing calcium. If you're eating grains, you're losing calcium. If you're taking a wide variety of prescription drugs, especially birth control and several others, you're losing calcium. These are the biggies. If you are not doing regular strength-demanding activities, not endurance, but strength-demanding, and hopefully even strength-developing activities. I went years and years without doing strength-developing activities because I thought I was strong enough. I mean, I'm strong enough. How strong do I want to get? You know, I was pretty darn strong. That was a mistake. I need to do strength-building activities the rest of my life.
Like weightlifting?
I don't need to get bigger. Weightlifting will make you develop strength. That's one way to do it. There's a zillion different kinds of strength-developing activities.
Like what?
Hey man, stand in front, stand in the doorway and push against the door.
Oh.
Pick up rocks that don't move. You know.
Isometrics.
Isokinetics. There's plyometrics. There's this strap your husband onto your back and walk up a hill. It's a combination of strength and endurance. Plyometrics is a combination of strength and speed. Pure strength is like weightlifting. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But anything that is a strength demand on you will, because the body is constantly adapting to the demands placed upon it, will impart calcium into the bones. But it won't in the tests that are done on mainstream people because the foods that they're eating and the lifestyle they're driving is so calcium losing that even doing strength demanding activities won't end up in a net gain of calcium. It'll just slow the loss of calcium. But for most of us, it's not about gaining calcium, which the body does all the time naturally. It's about, it doesn't matter how much water I pour in the bucket if there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket. So what you do is you plug the hole, the coffee, the alcohol, the cigarettes, the meats. There's no food that makes you gain it. It's not about foods that make you gain it. It's about not losing it and doing the activities and the lifestyle, the sunshine, the sufficient sleep. You will not metabolize calcium properly without sunshine, sleep, exercise, strength demanding activities. These are the things that do it. Supplying sufficient calcium, but you get more than sufficient calcium on a vegetarian, on a vegan, on a raw food. You get more than sufficient calcium. Yeah, of course you can rebuild. Yes, you can rebuild. The body is constantly rebuilding your bone, and it's constantly breaking down your bone. There are cells called osteoblasts that build your bone, and there's cells called osteoclasts that break down your bone. It's constantly revising and renewing according to the materials you provide and the lifestyle you live.
I was just going to add to that. I was just going to say, even taking calcium supplements, so many people always think they've got to take all these calcium.
Yeah, it doesn't do a thing for calcium.
It actually causes
doesn't help
more
in
harm
any way.
to the body, doesn't it?
Kidney stones.
Does the crap about correlating heart rate to fat, carbohydrate distribution that you're burning hold in any way?
Is it real?
Yeah, is it real?
Yes, it's real to a degree. but it's misleading to a degree. And the way it's real is that what they tell you is absolutely true. That if you're doing 60% of max, the max isn't real, by the way. Like when you're talking about 80% of your max, I can drive you to 107, 110% of your max. Your max is way higher than what they tell you it is, and it's going to get higher. Okay, but working at 60% of your max, max is like 180 minus your age.
Because people have known for ages, vitamin B stories in cooking and their myths. But there's a big difference between what scientists know and
Yeah, and that you were
sun-dried tomato soak water. After you soak the sun-dried tomatoes, put the sprouted sunflower seeds in the sun-dried soap water, and after they soak just the juice, and then dehydrate it.
That monitor wasn't set for you properly. Let me, you said athletic. Yeah. Folks, wasn't that just so much fun? I think the presenters deserve a round of applause. We'd have no reason to be here if you guys weren't here, so thank you so very, very much. That was intense. And we're going to take a short break, 10 minutes. At 5:30, we will come back for some serious fun closing ceremonies of all kinds that last for almost an hour and a half. We're going to have a good time during this next section, so take a 10-minute break. Enjoy your 10-minute break, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. The Tanita scale, the Tanita scale.